favors both teams quite heavily.
Will Hmble take a set back? Will Trav ever forgive Symantec for that overstep?
No.
Stick around to find out, I guess. All right, heading into Brawl Ball here, we have a Gale banned by SK Gaming. They get out of the way straight away now. That seems pretty telegraphed here. Looking for a max.
That's bold.
First pick.
Very bold. But, I mean, it works. It can work occasionally. I don't love it as a first pick, but it's their play style. If they can add some tanks to it, they've banned out the Gale, they've banned out an Otis, which is a wild ban, I will say, in itself. So they might be gearing up to try and play some tanks.
They're going to play a tank, right? Otis, as we've recently seen, is just devastating on these kind of maps. I think Hmble have read into this. Picking up the Frank. Now, Daryl is a decent answer to this. Daryl can interrupt Frank's super with that super of his own. That little knock-up is enough to cancel it out. That's what we saw happen to sitetampo, I think, as he tried to play the Frank and looked pretty average on it on day number 1. Hmble, get the tank, now what? They've really tipped their hands here, though. Surge has been banned by Hmble. They're trying to deal with any potential tank counters. That's why Clancy has also been wiped off. Kenji is still open.
I mean, a Frank first pick is wild. They're going to go with Amber.
They're ready for a tank.
Yeah, breaking up some of those grass, some of that grass as well, I should say. But you know, as you said, the Daryl's still on the table to be able to counteract that Frank. The Primo as well through center stage works so well, and SK play it incredibly too. The Primo plays that they managed to pull off throughout this year have been, you know, next to none. But obviously, still 2 picks for them. I don't mind the Amber, obviously coming in, breaking up the bushes. That's the whole point of center stage. You have that incredibly bushy area around the mid. And with the Frank, 1 hypercharge and all of the walls and bushes go. And Amber obviously a little bit easier to get that done earlier on in the game. SK go the Colette, completely pivot off what seems, or what it seemed they were going to be going.
They are serial Colette pickers when it comes to Brawl Ball here, and a Kenji to finish the lineup. Kenji is answered by tanks. Lenar, of course, we saw Colette from SK Gaming on a previous Brawl Ball round yesterday. It was fine. They had Colette and Gale as well. It's odd now, maybe they might have wished they'd left that in the rotation. I think this has been a pivot from SK Gaming away from a tank composition. Seeing Amber and Frank picked up back-to-back, they're looking for a different approach.
Yeah, I mean, just wild drafts, really. And a Sandy comes in as well.
Okay.
Listen, I love a Sandy. I absolutely love it, but it kind of seems like it's going to be a bit susceptible to that Kenji, the assassin. Hasn't got much DPS, but Sweet Dreams can do some wonders in front of goal. So I don't hate the pick. Obviously, the amount of vision you're going to be able to get with the super, with the root sands, it can work. But I'm looking at SK's comp and I'm loving what I'm seeing.
Absolutely. Hmble do have a lot of map control, both through bush destruction and, of course, that Sandy super. 2 stuns as well between the Frank and the Sandy. A lot to work with, but SK Gaming, off the back of a victorious set, now step out with this Colette Kenji max composition.
I mean, so far so good as Symantec just beelining towards the goal. Might be able to get a gadget off here, and Yoshi actually patches it straight over to that right-hand side once more. Lukii gonna go down as Joker comes in, but Yoshi's so low. So many heals when you've got your gadget of Frank, though. And Boss looking for some shots of his own. Got a super ready, but Yoshi will send him all the way back to spawn.
Almost daring, I think, the Sandy to use yet another Sweet Dreams gadget, but I think they know they have to hold on to those for the Kenji. I think we might have seen 2 Amber gadgets used here, I'm not sure. And Symantec able to take Lenar down. Frank definitely an issue for the Kenji. Yoshi, though, perfectly designed to deal with these big bodies, and Symantec will fall.
Yeah, Boss throws out super there. I'm sure they'd have liked the Frank to be along with them for the ride. But Joker falls low on the right. Lenane starts to make a push through this mid. Boss gonna use the Sweet Dreams, but his Root Sand instantly cancels it out, and Lenane was back in action. Lukii will fall too, and Lenane going wild.
Symantec here, gadget used, but nobody brought in. He's low, going for the super. Yoshi tried to interrupt it with that super. No connection, and Symantec gets what he came for there. In goes Lenar, caught out though, the Sandy damage is real. Symantec will lead the way with a stun. Taken out, but Boss is here, healthy enough to walk it in.
Just about as Joker started to flank around the back and get some damage. Hypercharge used, and now Yoshi's has been charged. Lenane's got his super. Moving forwards, he's slicing through Lukii here, but Symantec's there and waiting. Hypercharge as well. Can Symantec keep him off the ball? It's blast to the left, and SK equalize.
And now we start to see the game plan. Kenji dodging a lot of these Frank hits. And the hypercharge there from Joker. Boss hit by 1 slash of that, but it's going to be Lenar stunned up here. Yoshi able to take Boss down, but how are you going to stop this now? Push it. He's got the goal anyway. Symantec, proud as a peacock right in front. It's a super shot for the game win.
almost stopped by Yoshi, who had a phenomenal game all the way through, defeating so many of those Hmble brawlers, but still couldn't quite fend off this aggression that the Frank was bringing to the table. And he was dealing with the Kenji so well, predicting where he was going to land with the supers, with the gadgets, and taking him off the map.
He's an unreal role player, isn't he? Picking up a lot of these positions to try and stop tanks, for example, but this has gone terribly for SK. Hmble, okay. Well, they'll take the first goal pretty comfortably.
And a hypercharge already available from Symantec. A lot of these walls taken out of the mix though, and Symantec now moving forwards, getting behind this wall. Wants to use it, moves that tiniest bit further forward, and the name will fall down. Yoshi now going to be super down by the Frank. Got a gotcha gadget shot in there as well. Boss, Sweet Dream still available. Chooses not to go for it, waiting it out. Frank's got the super, use it. Joker grabs the ball, but double stun, and the lineup perfect. Another one, but the ball can't be passed. Yoshi dodges, but Symantec secures 2 sets to 1.
Soak it up, Symantec. This is your moment. There's a Frank super at the end of that round. Joker phase shifts into it and gets stunned. He was probably hoping for it to be a little longer to try and overshoot the Frank to avoid it. But he miscalculates and gets caught. It all comes crumbling down after that for SK.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing for him. I think he was just trying to get the ball out and delay what Hmble were trying to do. Maybe he had a teammate respawn, and that was so close as well. I mean, inevitably a goal regardless, as he could have just picked up the ball again on the same spot and scored it, but Hmble played this so well. I mean, he goes for it, tries to get the ball to Linane. I don't know if he thinks that Symantec's trying to super him, and maybe Linane won't be affected by it. But in the end, they managed to force it through, and all 3 members of Hmble were there to deal with the scraps. 10 kills and 481 for Symantec. But Yoshi over the other side trying to do as much as he can. Got so much DPS, but no matter how much DPS he got, Symantec had more.
Sorry, Symantec, 481 DPS against one of the most mobile compositions available in Brawl Stars right now. Lenar dashes as part of his basic attack. Joker has speed and of course a gadget to dodge. And yet Symantec, he gets it all, laughing all the way to the bank. Gotta feel like Colette was still the good pick here. Did a great job of putting pressure on Symantec, but again, when you see a Frank that's able to do so much, you've got to ask yourself, did we do enough to counter him?
The issue for me is, I'm kind of thinking that Kenji was the issue, and I never thought I'd be saying that in the current meta, that Kenji was the problem in a composition. But I don't feel like he did anything.
Not enough either way. Time and time again, we watched Lenar get blown to smithereens. But now we put it behind us once more. Ring of Fire will be our 4th set, and for Hmble, it might be all that stands between them and a grand finals berth. SK Gaming have some catching up to do, Trav.
Well, in comes the draft, and as you said, Ring of Fire is the map we're going on to. The Bell, Stu, and Clancy bands from SK Gaming. Hmble, on the flip side, taking the Stu out the way, along with the Gus and Mo. So Kenji still surviving through this, but you kind of got to expect maybe an early surge pick, something like that. And we've seen a lot of teams kind of going anti-Kenji rather than picking it up.
Some teams are also still trying to get Lu on these hot zone maps. Ooh. All right, we are trying it again. SK determined to make this Kenji pick work. Suffice to say, Lenar wasn't quite set up for success in that previous map. Hmble here have seen this one before. They know SK are consummate Kenji preferers. So what is the answer going to be? Note that Clancy and Mo unavailable. Also, Gus has been removed, so that's one of the tools that's often used to empower Kenji. That has been put by the wayside.
Well, I think we've kind of got to expect Surge. It's going to be the Amber coming through once more. It worked for them in the previous set. I'm sure they're going to be trying the exact same thing again. Obviously, with the Mythic gear, you have that slowing effect, well, slight slowing effect when your opposition stand in the oil. So if you're able to throw so much of that towards the zone and just kind of let it linger there, then it does do a lot of work without really showing too much.
Yeah, Amber really quite dangerous. I mean, both of her Mythic gears are really, really good, but just being able to get more utility out of that oil spill as opposed to being some mild threat is pretty powerful. Also, Dancing Flames, very good against Kenji if he tries to move up on you. It's not bugged anymore, but it still does a healthy amount of damage. About 1,800 per flame. Ooh. Meg will be the second pickup here for Hmble.
I mean, it's got a lot of DPS and a lot of health to play through this mid. I'd imagine they're kind of going to be using the star power, you know, going to be exploding, pushing Kenji back when coming aggressive and getting her out of that mech form. But SK Gaming still have another 2 picks. I wouldn't have really predicted either of these 2 brawlers from Hmble, to be honest with you, to be played into Kenji. But they seem pretty decent to me. And obviously, something that's been so consistent for them all year long has been their drafts. And every time I question them, they seem to prove me wrong.
It's a pretty impressive comp for Hmble. I mean, we know that Meg can just keep walking up onto the point here. Lola coming down for SK Gaming. Just incredible, damage, and she basically operates within her optimal range on Ring of Fire. Can also play a off angle, pressure the right-hand side behind some of those barrels, or play back and control any push up the left. We've seen plenty of Surge on this map as well in the past.
I'd like to see a surge, especially from Hmble, but you got a question if SK Gaming are now kind of just going to take it, to move it out of their hands. Something like a Gale, still extremely viable for the Hmble side as well, to be able to, yeah, they've gone for the surge, just taking it out of their opposition's hands, and still, it's a capable brawler into both Meg and Amber alike, so very good pick from SK, I feel.
Again, you could be fed levels off that Meg. She is extremely immobile, but it's a threat of her torrential damage that tends to keep people away from her. Now Lukii here saying, what is it going to be for me? What do we compare with this combination? Do we think we want some healing? Oh. Yes! Berry comes out. One of the newest brawlers in the game. Berry is able to throw down these ice cream pools that heal over time. Pretty short range as far as throwers are concerned. Also has a super that lets him get a burst of mobility while dropping more of those ice cream fields. So it will be healing here to pair with Boss.
I like it. I mean, if you can chain enough supers off your teammates standing in that ice cream and getting the heals back, it's going to charge more and more and more every time they stand in it. So Berry, a very viable healer to have here, along with the Meg and the Amber. Should be pretty mid-centric gameplay from the side of Hmble, whereas SK might kind of fan out a bit more and come down the sides.
Here we go. Berry gets increased reload speed when he's standing in his own ice cream field with that star power he's picked up here. Now Lenar just doesn't have the damage to cut through this setup here for Hmble. Yoshi trying to work that off angle. Hasn't built super yet. Isn't getting the free damage he was hoping for.
I mean, look at that. Genji already getting 2 supers. Like, they're just going to stand in these puddles and get them back. It's absolutely unreal from this Hmble roster. You're going to see Lenane going to get caught again by that swing. And Symantec just suppressing him down this left-hand side, and it's 50-0 already.
And Lukii is cycling these supers like you mentioned, Trav. He can dish out so much healing onto the map. He doesn't even really need to try and attack. Another super comes through, and again, it's more healing for Symantec. SK Gaming are rudderless.
They look lost. Lenane coming through the mid once more, eventually gets his super and gets some good damage in, but how much can he take himself? Not enough this time. Yoshi going to be looking for the shots back. Symantec still survives and might be able to 1v1 Joker out of the mech. 4% is all that's required, and they'll get just that. Hmble, match point.
And they look composed. What a ridiculous composition. This Berry looks fantastic in this shell, combined with the Amber, who also wants to play around her own field effects, and the Meg, who just wants to stand there and get all the resources. SK Gaming, it's now or never. You need to figure this out.
Well, a little bit of a lane swap them for Lenane as he goes right instead of left this time, but so much damage can come in from Symantec, and their heals are there once more. Surely Lenane falls, but gets a lot of damage along the way too. And already, SK have got more percentage than the last, but still not looking the most healthy. Yoshi's going to fall down, and Joker backed off.
Hmble swimming in an ice cream dream. Nothing SK can do is able to shift them right now. Lukii spins back, super thrown out. Lenar sees an opportunity. He gets the berry. That's the healing gone, but those pulls are persisting. Yoshi moves up here. Again, Lenar has to do so much heavy lifting here. Eventually he's going to fall, but Joker did get a bit of extra percentage, and Lukii needs to respect the Lola damage.
Super used, and that should provide Symantec with enough HP to stay in this mid and get some more percentage. Lenane once more flanking around the right-hand side, but found Joker, Yoshi both solo and still yet to get a level 2. Super comes in from Lukii, does fall down on the way. Lenane goes in aggressive, but dealt with once more. And SK have a problem they can't solve.
No, I don't think this composition is it, Trav. I don't think they've been able to figure this out, and they're running out of time. 77% and counting. Joker loses the ego. Lenar suffers ego death as Hmble push them back yet again. Joker at 400 eventually has to fall. Here's the sashimi for Lenar, but that is just not going to cut it. Yoshi steps up, but those who humble themselves will be exalted. Symantec and the boys are headed to their first grand final.
SK fans distraught But Hmble carry on the consistent streak that they've had all year long. Make it all the way to the grand finals.
And that man on your screen has suffered more disappointments than I would care to count. We've seen it every time, the crushing defeat. But this year, something is different. This year, there's a little bit of magic about this Hmble squad. And they've earned the right to stand at the top, to fight for the title.
It didn't seem like SK today. It really didn't. The team we've been seeing over the last 2 days did not show up on day 3. And Hmble, they recognize that. They beat them down time and time again. And especially over the last couple of sets, it's been all Hmble. 1, 1, and 3. A lot of DPS from Linane, but too much heals from Lukii.
What more is Joker supposed to do? 756 DPS. One of the most egregious scorelines I've ever seen. The Lukii with the silver bullet, the ace in the sleeve, and ace beats Joker, by the way. Nothing they could do against this berry healing.
That actually might be the most DPS I've ever seen